What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake MLB DFS Wise stream. CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on other social media platforms listed above or directly at WiseTake.com. If you're looking to take your DFS game to the next level, we are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community design. To help make you a better DFS player, go check us out, WiseTake.com. Day pass is available. We've got two slates today for MLB. Going to be covering the night slate, main slate, if you will, for MLB at WiseTake, including on this show. Also got some NBA coverage tonight, massive NBA slate, so a lot to get to. Luckily, the MLB locked a little bit earlier than basketball, so we got some time to get some things done. That being said, it's kind of an ugly one, man. We got a couple games with weather. We've got a lot of pitchers that, in my opinion, are not very good, or at least are risky, to say the least. But we'll go ahead and jump into it. Aaron Savali right now, most expensive pitcher on both sites. I guess rightfully so. When you look at the history, when you look at the potential. Savali last year had a 4.74 ERA, but a 3.92 xFIP, 4.11 Sierra. Not great, but it's better than his ERA indicated. He's playing a White Sox team that last year did strike out a lot, but is definitely filled with power. Right, we got plenty of strong ISOs here, including Yon Rancada, 206 against righties, Jose Abreu, 231. This German Mercedes dude is just a beast right now. He's just playing on a whole other level. He just looks awesome. But Savali's looked pretty good himself, right? He's done a pretty good job so far, including one game against these White Sox in Chicago, which is a much more hitter-friendly park. Struck out 4 across 6 innings. Only gave up 1 earned run. 5 hits again. So he's put together 3 pretty good starts. DraftKings points 22.8, 29.5, 18.7. I expect him to be the chalk, especially on DraftKings where you have to roster 2 pitchers. And I don't feel great about it. But we don't have a lot to work with, and we'll kind of see that'll be the theme as we go out. Obviously, White Sox should make for an interesting leverage stack, but right now he's the cash game guy, in my opinion, unless we find something better. Tyler Mahle. This is another one, man. Mahle's done a pretty good job. He's had 3 starts, 25.7. This is DraftKings points, 18.6, and then 20.9. He hasn't given up more than 2 earned runs in a game. In that first game, which was at home against St. Louis, gave up 2 home runs. He's playing a D-backs team that gave Luis Castillo a hard time last night. Something to keep in mind. Curious to see what the ownership on Mahle is going to look like, right? Because he's a guy that's definitely high risk, to say the least. We have cold temperatures. We have winds blowing out to left field at 9 miles an hour. And we're playing a D-backs team that has a lot of left-handed bats. And in a park that is one of the best hitters parks in the game. Great American Small Park, as we like to call it. Mahle does have one of the highest strikeout rates on the slate. Actually, the highest, technically. He squeezes out Ian Anderson from last year. The issue is, you can see last year, looks like he skated by with a lot of luck, a lot of help, 255 BABIP, and he's a fly ball pitcher. It's not like he's a ground ball. Sometimes ground ball pitchers can get away with those type of BABIPs, but not so much for him. He had a lot of fly balls. Now, he did a pretty good job limiting his hard contact for the most part last season. But the fly balls are massive, winds blowing out. The positive, winds blowing out to left, but should have his hands full. Curious to see what the ownership is on him. I think ownership is going to have a lot to do with how I approach Tyler Mahle tonight. If he's going to be low owned, I'll take the shot because the strikeout rate is there. But if he's going to end up being popular, which I think there's definitely a chance, at least of that happening, then we're going to want to play some D-back bats against him, even though the D-backs offense hasn't been great. They do put the ball in play a lot. This is a guy that's prone to giving up fly balls. That's skated by with a lot of luck on his side so far. And even the strikeout rates, 35.4 to righties, 28.5 to lefties, still really good. Still really good. But definitely different. And he's given up a 59.4% fly ball rate to lefties. Something else to keep in mind. So, again, we're going to kind of read ownership throughout the day, kind of see which way this is heading. If Manley's going to be low owned, I'll take some shots. If Manley's going to be over owned, I will gladly stack the D-backs against him and just hope for the best. And this is not to take anything away from him. He does genuinely have some good strikeout stuff. 13.4% swinging strike rate last year. Keep that in mind. Corey Kluber has not looked very good. Today doesn't seem like the best bounce back spot, in my opinion. He's got winds blowing out. Let me pull up Kevin Roth's report a little bit more accurate here. I know that there's some strong winds blowing out at Yankee Stadium today. I just want to find the legitimate report for you all. So the front will be cleared through by first pitch, no issues there. Post frontal, we will see some gusty winds, 15 to 20 miles an hour, sustained, blowing out to right center. That's not necessarily good for a pitcher who's coming back from a couple injuries and has kind of struggled to start his season. Currently, Kluber has a 5.44 xFIP. His ground ball rate has been about 56.3, which could help. Swinging strike rate 14.1%. That's promising, despite the fact that his strikeout rate has been 22.6. Now we're talking about minuscule samples, right? We're talking about just the season. He hasn't thrown more than 77 pitches. That was the most he's thrown. He's given up. He gave a 1 earned run in 4 innings against Toronto at home. He gave up 3 to Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay, and then another 3 to Toronto in Toronto. Now, granted, Toronto's park, keep in mind, is super hitter friendly, even more hitter friendly than Yankee Stadium, you could argue. But it's a little scary. He's playing the Braves, one of the top offenses in the league. DraftKings went ahead and just said, fuck it. Made his price 9.3 despite the fact that he hasn't earned anything. On FanDuel, he's 6,500. So if you're going to take your shots with him, I think FanDuel might be where you might want to do that. You're saving a lot of money. On DraftKings, it's hard to really argue, and I think Atlanta is definitely in play. I think they're highly in play against Kluber, who's unproven, whose xFIP, which is more of like a true projected ERA, if you will, has not looked good. Now, so far, he has struggled more to righties, but he's also seen more righties. Interestingly enough, he's struck out 33.3% of left-handed batters he's faced. The Braves do strike out, man. They got some high strikeout rates, different than a couple years ago. Last year we saw that. But they also have some pretty good hitters on the squad. And now they are missing Acuna, which is obviously a big boost. That helps. One of the best players in the game. But again, I think FanDuel, you could take your shots. On DraftKings, I think I lean more towards the Braves side, no doubt. Zach Davies, last year, another guy that skated by with a lot of luck. 249 BABIP. 2.73 ERA, but a 4.14 xFIP, 4.32 Sierra. More true numbers. He's playing in Wrigley, but it's cold AF in Wrigley, man. It's freezing. Maybe some light rain according to the weather report, but nothing that we think will impact the game. The cold is a real thing. It's going to be freezing. Chicago, literally. That's going to help. We saw yesterday the game was low scoring. I know Walker didn't do that well, but the Cubs only scored 3 runs and won the game. And Walker didn't even do well. So that kind of tells you like the shitty scenarios we can get down there. I'm not interested in pitching Davies. Doesn't have enough strikeout upside for me at 8.8. Even if I have 7 on FanDuel, it's not that interested. The question is, do we want to attack Davies? And it's really not a great environment for it. It's not a great environment for it. I mean, it's a small slate, so when you're doing a bunch of teams like we typically do, yeah, we're going to want to get some exposure to some of these Mets. Just for the sake of doing it, just because it's a small slate, and any offense can certainly do it. I will say this: Davies last year had a 26.6% K rate to righties and a 16.9 to lefties. So expect the lefties to put the ball in play more, and there's a lot of lefties we can throw at them. So I actually think the Mets offense could be sneaky, but I just don't expect it to be with a ton of home runs, if anything. You know what I mean? Ian Anderson has the same wins that we were just talking about. He's got a phenomenal strikeout rate. Last year, his BABIP was also very low, which led to a 1.95 ERA. But the xFIP and Sierra, best on a slate. Looking at last year's numbers, of course. 52% ground ball rate, which could certainly help in this environment. Yankees offense has been struggling. Real horde. And I think Ian Anderson's a good pitcher. I think he's I think he's a good pitcher. He's going to have his hands full. We got winds blowing out. Ironically, his strikeout percentage has been higher, and his ground ball percentage has been higher to lefties, which is kind of weird. But it is what it is. I think Ian Anderson's on the table. I also think the Yankee stacks, if you want to treat that game just for the wind, because that wind is strong, and I think that wind could have an impact. But as far as quality arms go, I think Anderson's one of the my best quality arms on the slate, and we're getting a fair price for him. So it's risky, but we're getting a fair price. I think I lean towards Anderson, and that's more of a lack of options thing. Because, it's the Yankee Stadium. It's against the Yankees. And I know they've been slumping, but it's still the Yankees. And we got winds blowing out strong. Merrill Kelly, another one, man. This xFIP and Sierra is significantly higher than his ERA. But still under 4. Not terrible. Gives up a lot of hard contact. I just don't feel good about him in Great American Small Park. I think the Reds right now are one of the better-looking offenses just off the top of the head. Merrill Kelly's numbers were pretty solid last year overall. I've never really been a big believer in him. He gives up a lot of hard contact to righties. He's actually shown a little reverse splits. And there's a lot of lefties here, so that could bode somewhat well for him. But with the park being what it is, I do definitely lean towards the Reds offense, who've played pretty well, who have pretty solid ISO numbers against righties, and is in one of the best hitting environments on the slate. Michael Wacha's coming off a really good game. He did it against the Yankees, of all teams. I'm not a big Wacha guy, not a big Wacha believer. 6 innings, 9 Ks against the Yankees. The strikeouts have been there for him, man. 5 innings, 6 Ks against Boston. 4 innings, 5 Ks against the Yankees the first time. The Ks have been there. First game gave up 4 earned runs. Second game gave up 3 earned runs. If we take a look at this year specifically to see, let's look at him this year specifically to kind of dig in a little bit here. I want to dig in a little bit on this guy. If I can find the right damn game. It's the last game on the slate, too. We got a little bit of that action going for us. Let's look at this year. So, man, he's looked really good, man. I think Wacha is actually in play. His BABIP is not necessarily low. I mean, the Royals offense has been struggling. Now we know. He's got a 15.9% K rate so far this season, 32.8% strikeout rate, at 3.33 xFIP. That's for this season with the small samples that we've had to work with. And while he's given up a lot of hard contact to righties, it's just a really good park for him. One of the best pitching parks in the game. We know last year he was a little on the unlucky side at 6.62 ERA with a 4.3 xFIP, 3.99 Sierra. Those aren't like off the chart numbers, but I think Wacha's in play, man. And I'm curious to see what his ownership looks like after what he did. He got him and David Peterson coming off of like ridiculously good games, and I'm curious to see what the ownership on those guys look like. But Wacha's looked really good this season. Right? Do I think he's that good of a pitcher overall? I don't think so, but maybe he's found something out. He's playing with the Rays, man. The Rays have been really good at developing pitchers. David Peterson coming off of a ceiling game. Didn't see it coming, man. I talked a lot of shit about him, and I'm a Met fan too, and it wasn't nothing personal, but I talked a lot of shit about Mr. Peterson. And he went out there and just completely, destroyed the Phillies, who are a very tough team to strike out with lefties. So shout out to him. He's looked good this season. I don't know. I think it's a little too early for me to really buy into the hype. You can see last year he skated by with a whole lot of luck. 2.33 BABIP, an ERA of 3.44, but an xFIP and Sierra over 5. I think this is more who he is personally, but we have to see more of a sample of him because he just that last start was just. I mean, it could have been fluky, but it was impressive, man. It was impressive. He's played Philly twice, and the first time 4 innings, gave up 6 earned runs, 2 homers. That was in Philly with 5 Ks. Still had 5 Ks. Against Philly, the second game, 1 earned run, 1 home run, 10 Ks, 6 innings. So he was he was getting strikeouts against these dudes. And now he's playing a Cubs offense in freezing temperatures that have some really good lefty matchers. Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Contreras. But they also have significantly high strikeout rates in an environment that's freezing, right? And not to mention last year, the Cubs really struggled against lefties. They really struggled against lefties. So I wanted to keep that in mind. So I think Peterson and Wacha, 2 guys coming off of like ceiling performances from what we'd expect. I think we have to at least consider them today on a slate where the pitching sucks anyway. Garrett Richards, I think we can get behind the Boston offense on this one. Into the Toronto offense on this one. I'm not a huge Richards guy, right? I know I think he was pretty impressive in his first start, but it's not a train that I'm all that eager to jump on. Especially against Toronto, a team that can be difficult to strike out from time to time. Richards did have an 11% swinging strike rate last year, which was fairly impressive, but he also did struggle with lefties a bit. So we're looking at Biggio, Tellez. I guess that's the one downfall of Toronto. They don't have a ton of lefties. Last year, he was pretty good to righties. Strikeout rate wasn't that different, but the contact metrics were or at least on a results basis, they were different. He actually had a higher hard contact rate to righties, but result basis, 354 WOBA to lefties, 277 to righties, 194 ISO to lefties, 158 to righties, just to kind of tell you where we're at. But I do think, well, let's take a look at what he's done so far this year. So that first game against Baltimore, he got lit up, 6 earned runs. I played Baltimore again in Baltimore, only 2 earned runs. Played Minnesota, had 4 Ks in 5 innings. So the strikeouts just aren't enough for me. I would lean towards the Boston offense, but I don't know. That game's just not doing a whole ton for me. Trent Thornton. So to be clear, it looks like he's going to be the opener. Yeah, potential probable opener. Missing a game here. Huh? Oh yeah, missing a game here. Missing Mitch Keller and Turnbull. Well, Turnbull is the opener. Skubal is the long reliever. So we do have a couple other pitchers to discuss, and I'm wondering if that's a doubleheader. Let me just check. I want to see if this Pittsburgh game, 210. Yeah, this Pittsburgh game's a doubleheader. That's always interesting. We got Mitch Keller and Turnbull going. It's going to be a shortened game. We saw yesterday with Manaea. We talked about that, right? Manaea ended up getting a complete game shutout because he went to 7 innings. So Mitch Keller's been terrible, but he is playing the Tigers. Now, the Tigers have been red hot, but is that what we expect them to sustain throughout the season, or at some point do we expect them to regress towards what they are? Keller, before getting lit up by San Diego, actually had a really good game against the Cubs. 7 Ks, 5 innings. So I think Mitch Keller could actually become an interesting play. How many pitches has he thrown? 83 pitches. I mean, that could do some work on a slate this size. Tyreek Skubal is supposed to come in against the Pirates after the fact. So he's not going to have the opportunity to get the complete game or anything like that. But he is playing a Pirates offense that's just not very good and has struggled a bit so far to start the season. Oof. It's tough because, like, when you play the offenses in those games, you feel like you're getting ripped off of a couple innings, and you are. Doesn't mean that on a small slate they can't be the stack. They certainly can, especially like one-offs. You can get guys double dong and all that shit, but it does make it more difficult to make those decisions. But I think as of right now, Mitch Keller is at least on the table. He's at least on the table. Going back to Toronto, and I'll get that adjusted on the projections before I post them. As far as Toronto goes, with what's his name? I think is it K? I think it's Anthony K pitching. Yeah, Anthony K, probably long reliever against Boston. I haven't been so impressed with Mr. K. Really haven't. He's a lefty that struggles with the lefties, struggles with the righties. There are actually a lot of lefty matchers on this Boston team, whether they're playing like it or not. There are. Guys like JD Martinez, Kike, obviously, Bogarts. I mean, Boston looks pretty good. Boston looks pretty good right now. Let's see something real quick. Okay, just wanted to make sure there were no other doubleheaders on the slate. Yeah, I like the Boston offense. Remember, it's not even against Thornton, who hasn't been great himself, but it's against K, against a lefty. Bobby Dahlback, young kid, right-handed bat. Christian Vasquez has cooled down a little bit, but I guess I'm assuming Hunter Renfroe is hurt because I don't see his name in the projected lineup. If we get Renfroe in there, you know how we feel about Renfroe against lefties, even though he's been cold. I think Boston's one of the better-looking stacks on the slate for sure. Junis against Tampa. This is an interesting one. So Jake Junis, man, I don't really know what to think of the guy, man. Last year there were slates where we had no choice, or we played him to get different, and he actually did as well. But for the most part, he's just not very good, right? His numbers all around look terrible. I think the Rays offense is on the table for sure. But whenever a pitcher is facing the Rays, we have to at least consider the possibility of that pitcher exceeding expectation because of how often the Rays strike out. And this isn't a really big park in Kansas City. But again, Junis has been terrible. Last year, maybe on the wrong side of luck, right? 4.77 xFIP, 4.72 Sierra is not good. But 6.39 ERA, it's a lot better than that. And then a 3.50 BABIP if you factor these things in. Maybe he was just on the wrong side of luck for a lot of that. But the Rays, man, they could hit. And they're used to playing at a big park. So Junis, man, that's a wild card right there. Either the Rays are going to light his ass up, or he's going to be one of the cheap pitchers that do well tonight. And on a slate where the pitching is not great, we have to be open-minded. We have to be open-minded. It's the truth. Tony A says, very unlikely the Boston game plays a lot of rain in the area. Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, two broken storm lines headed to Boston tonight. One just before first pitch, one smack dab in the middle of the game. I say broken because it's not a solid storyline. There's likely to be some gaps in the coverage, and maybe Boston gets lucky and shoots the gap on both. It's possible, but I doubt it. More likely to get smacked by one or two of these things, keeping the area wet in some capacity. This game is dicey. He's going orange red. Orange red. So we'll get an update on that later. But that's anytime there's a red in there, it's not good. So we'll see if that game plays. But we have some stuff to work with. If not, I like the Boston offense a lot, but if we lose it, we'll make do. I mean, offense shouldn't be too much of an issue. I think it's more the finding the pitchers we like. It's a little more of an issue. D. Millie says the COVID shot is whooping his ass. Yeah, man, I know a couple people that got the side effects, man. And my wife got the second shot, and the side effects were real. You know what I'm saying? Real, you know. But so if you're getting that shit, be careful and be mindful. But interesting one nonetheless. Any slate that you have to consider, like Mitch Keller and these guys, you might not feel that great about it. I'm assuming, yeah. So FanDuel always leaves off the FanDuel always leaves that shit off. Their second pitchers, but that's a doubleheader. Keep in mind on DraftKings, the Detroit-Pittsburgh game is a doubleheader. So I'm gonna add these guys to the projections. I'll get those posted up later on today, probably sometime after the first slate starts, and we'll take it from there. But I appreciate y'all, nation, doing dirties, dropping sevens all day. Probably gonna move this show tonight at some point next week. I'm gonna try to anyway and get this shit up early. So I'm hoping to hang out with y'all. I'm hoping to interact with y'all. Maybe have a segment where we incorporate more questions and things like that. I want to keep you guys involved. I want to keep you guys interacting. What I want to do. But I appreciate y'all. Article will be out later. Projections, all that shit will be out later. I'm going to try to pop into the Slack to discuss the early slate. If you're a member at WiseTake.com, you have access to the Slack chat. Going to try to utilize that more. We've already made an announcement in the NBA channel in terms of NBA content. And also looking into Discord, man. If anybody out there is a Discord whiz, hit me up, man. Let me know, because I'm thinking about shifting things over there, but only if it works. Right now, our Slack system is set up. We got automated shit coming in and all that good shit. So, but anyway, nation, I appreciate y'all. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. Notifications bell on. Don't miss out on the free streams. Appreciate you. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck. Yeah.